10 years mayor, right?
10 years. 10 years plus, actually. Yeah, 10 and a half years.
10 and a half years.
Yeah.
What's really changed in all that? What's the stark difference between your first day as mayor and now?
Wow, that's a great question. I'd say that the difference is the amount of things I was involved in then. There was such a learning curve, and there were so many things that I knew I needed to learn and to know, but it just takes time, right? You have to get involved, you have to make connections, you have to network. All of those come with time in the job. And so you don't learn everything all at once, and things are automatically changing all the time. This is a real live, scenario, so stuff is always changing. But I look at it today and I kind of laugh and think, boy, there's no way. I think I had all kinds of time on my hands when I look at my first few months as mayor, because there were so many things that I just wasn't involved in yet. Transportation and economic development and sitting on different boards, all things to move the city forward, but I just hadn't discovered them yet.
Hadn't discovered them, hadn't met the people that could, put you into those positions.
Absolutely, that's right.
And I guess what I was kind of alluding to is when you took over, this city was a lot smaller than it is now.
Very much so.
Does that mean there was Does that mean there was less work to do, or was it a lot more work to do because you were trying to grow?
I think the answer to that is it's all relative. You're right, it was smaller, but the difference is our challenges were greater with less money and less staff and less knowledge on how to solve those problems, because we weren't even known as a city outside of the area very well. I mean, heck, you'd see the evening weather report, and Maricopa was never even listed on there. We had to call those weather stations and tell them, hey, don't forget about us in Maricopa. We're a growing city, and we want to know what our weather's like too. So those are the challenges. But as you get larger, you solve some of those other more base challenges, and you just discover new ones because you're now a larger city. So there's more problems, you have more people, there's more challenges to solve. They just get bigger, so it's all relative.
If you can distill it down to, give me a memory of when you first took over that kind of just sticks with you even to this day.
Boy, that's a good question. I have a lot of them, to be honest with you. I think the memories that stick out the most is our evolution from being in our trailers and meeting at the school admin building for our city, and having people come, and we were doing economic development, and they would pull up into the parking lot and they'd say, am I in the right place? There's a donkey out front, and yeah, that's it. You're in the right place. And that didn't always make the best impression, depending on who we were courting. So to see our evolution go from a bunch of ADOT trailers that were linked together, that we called City Hall, to an established location that really says that we're here to stay and we're here to grow. That's one of the memories that I think really sticks with me, because it has made a huge effect on everything we've done subsequent, and that also stands true for the public's vision when we created Copper Sky. There were people that didn't believe that we should do it. There were people that thought we don't need it, and yet that has become our crown jewel. And when people see it, and when companies come here and are looking to locate, and they're trying to discover what we are as a city, boy, those are the things that sell them.
That was what, 2014?
Yeah, 2014. This was 2013.
This is, wow.
Yeah.
Two rather large projects within a year of each other. Well, obviously, something that large doesn't start. You're talking years in the making.
Yeah, so this place has started before I was mayor. It had been being discussed and under planning, and had been in the CIP, or the Capital Improvement Project Plan, before I was mayor. But I'm the one that got to see it completed. And that's part of the job here, is that one of the things you always have to remember is that you'll get to see a lot of things that you started completed, but you won't see everything you start complete. I got to stand on the shoulders of others who had built things for me and prepped it for me when I got elected. And then, as I move on to something else, then those that come behind will do the same thing, and they'll stand on my shoulders and they'll get to see things completed that I started, or this council started. And so this is just the evolution in which we go. We're just a spoke in the wheel,
A spoke in the wheel. A 10-year spoke.
A 10-year spoke.
What are your overall feelings about this? This is a big change this is a big life change, really.
It is. As I got to thinking about it and talked a lot with my wife, and we talked about it as a family, and we prayed about it, and we just looked for, is this the right thing to do for our family at this time? And like you said, we've given everything to Maricopa for 10 and a half years. The sacrifices my family has made, people will never know. And I don't say that to get any sympathy or anything. This was the choice we made, but it's a choice every single day. And you give a lot for it, and people will never know how much you give for it sometimes. But when I look at, there are things that I will miss, there's no doubt. There's things that I will miss as mayor, because it has been such a fulfilling piece of my life. But at the same time, I have to say that I'm so excited that if I look at all the possibilities of things I could move to, this is the best thing I could think of. And the reason is it's continuing on with transportation. It's continuing on with legislation, being at the legislature and working with our elected leaders. It's continuing on with economic development, which has been my promise to the city since day one. I remember telling people when I was running in 2012 that we were going to do more things for retail and commercial and industry than any time before me. And that is what we focused on. And we focused on getting our development services in line and in gear, and getting everybody in the city to find ways to help promote economic development. And that's had a huge impact on this city over the past decade. Just look around. I mean, the things that we have now, the Sprouts and the Ross, and the upcoming things that are about to come out of the ground, the Marshalls, and so much more, that's been because of direct efforts to that environment. So now I get to take all of that, and I get to take it to the next level. And now we get to focus on industry, and we get to focus on, high tech, and we get to focus on commercial. That is, how do we get people of this city to stay here and to work here and not have to drive up the 347 and make a great living while doing it? And that's the goal. If someone working in the Phoenix metro area making $89,000 a year can do it a block and a half down the road, why wouldn't they? And so that's the goal, and that's we're really trying to level up Maricopa. And for me, this is an opportunity to level up what I'm doing. So sure, there's things I'll miss, but really, I get to do the exact same thing I've been doing, just in a whole new world.
So you're leading the ship over there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what are some of the obviously bringing jobs, economic growth?
Yep.
That's obviously the big thing. But what are how do you go about doing that?
So really, it's a lot of hands-on. It's the exact same premise by which we built Maricopa. You don't start overnight by just saying, I'm here, I deserve something. And nobody buys that, right? What you do is you go and you meet people face to face. You have interactions with them. You go to their meetings. You get them to come to Maricopa. Those are called site selectors, right? And site selectors are employed by large corporations like Intel and Honeywell and other, semiconductor industries, and they come to an area and they look at it and they go, oh, this is different than what I thought it was. And so now between that and providing them the data is stuff like, what is our educational attainment? What is our average employment here? Do we have the workforce? What do our schools look like? All of these things go into the data that they're looking for so that they can make a decision at the corporate level of, why do I want to choose Maricopa over someplace in Tennessee or someplace in Maine or someplace in Washington? And that's the competition. The competition is all the other states. And while we don't have the same tax structure and things like tax TIF, which is called tax increment financing, we're the only state in the entire union that doesn't have a TIF. And that's because of our gift clause in the Arizona Constitution. And so now there are different things that we can do, but we just have to get creative. And we have a great tax structure here. And because of it, even though we don't have TIF, we have other things, right? And so it's often comparing what corporate structures look at is they go, well, this has this, right? And they get all giddy about it. And our job is to go in and say, that's great, but did you know we have this? Ding, 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 ding. And when you lay that out and you cover it over it and you go, do you see how we're actually a better play than that place? They go, wow, I never knew that. That's our job. Job at MEDA is to say, this is the pro forma. This is how your business will do better in Maricopa, Arizona than it will in Knoxville, Tennessee, for example.
So give me, I've heard a lot about the lack of tax increment financing as an issue that people trying to drive business here have to deal with. What are one of the benefits that you would sell instead of TIF?
So really what you're selling is the whole package. And it depends on the company. So where we are not allowed to do certain tax incentives, we can't give things away, the state can. And so if the state legislature through the Arizona Commerce Authority has designated certain buckets of money that say if you bring so many jobs to a rural area, you get X, right, in a rebate back from the state. You get Y. And so those are things that we can employ by using the state-funded methods while simultaneously taking what the tax rate looks like and the location and the schools and what we have to offer here in Maricopa and combining it all. That's how we sell Maricopa as a total package with taxes and employment and the right people and the workforce, and all of that stuff goes into them making a decision as to why they want to come here versus Casa Grande. At the end of the day, the way you apply what is out there completely depends upon the business, because certain applications for rebates from the state come based on the size of company that it is or the size of investment that they make in a given area in Arizona. So those are completely dependent on each company. If a company is only 20 million, they might fall into a smaller banding, right? If they're $1 billion company or a $100 billion company, they fall into different bandings.
What do you think the right banding is for Maricopa?
You know, I think that the right banding for us is really finding those first entry level type businesses here, and it's because you don't land the whale first, right? You don't get the main hub of Tesla, right out of the gate. That's not how it typically works. Could happen, I guess, but you'd have to be the luckiest son of a gun on the planet, What happens first is that there are smaller industries that come in. So let's take Casa Grande as a model, for example. Casa Grande didn't land Lucid first. What they landed first were things like Frito-Lay as a small company in the 50s, And when they grew to be this massive chip company, guess what? They still remember Casa Grande as their starting place. And so that's what I'm talking about, is that we will start with smaller, 100 jobs, 200 jobs, 300 jobs, $50,000 to $100,000 in pay, tech, depending on what it is the company is looking for and how much space they need, how much water usage, how much electricity usage. But I think you're going to see those smaller industries, and then what transpires is as soon as one lands, others start to cluster around it, right? And that's what's happening with Casa Grande now, is they're getting a clustering feature. That's why you see, I think it's Price Pfister that is, is it Price Pfister? I can't remember which one it is. Kohler, so Kohler is going there because of some of the other ancillary things that are around there. Lucid went in there, Nicola's across the street, right, in Coolidge. So, these are the types of things that will continue to locate because the area is doing it. Sometimes it's because of the workforce, sometimes it's because of the workforce programming that's going on at the different universities, and other times it's just the opportunity that makes the most sense. But again, if a $100 billion company comes knocking at our door, don't think for a second we're not going to be pursuing them, because we are. But it's just the competition goes up. You know, I mean, again, when Tesla decided it was moving its headquarters, remember all of the craziness that was going on out there. I think Tucson mailed them a cactus, you know, and said, "Come to Tucson, and this is what we'll give you." And you know, you had some places saying, "We'll give you, you know, billions of dollars and you know, minus taxes for X amount of years." And you have to be careful there, because you can't give away the farm, right? The whole purpose of landing the company is not just to employ people, but it's also to raise, because when you have all that infrastructure, it costs money, right? It costs the taxpayers money. It costs the roadways money. It costs police and fire money. And so you have to be able to pay for that somewhere. So if you've given the company all these tax rebates, you've got all this employment, that's great, but now you got to find a way to pay for all those new police officers that you need, and now the fire and all the roadways. So there's a balance that you have to strike in trying to find what is the best for the community.
What happens is, in a lot of places where they have all the giveaways and everything, is eventually the company just comes back and keeps wanting more and more and
Correct.
more.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
And I guess that's where, you know, being in Arizona, you have such a great tax structure for business already.
Yes.
That means that you may not be able to give much up front, but long term it's going to be. I'm trying to figure out how to put that into a question. But so I guess, can you talk a little bit about the overall tax structure? Is it just a low state corporate tax, or is it what makes the tax structure so good here?
So it's a combination of things, right? It's low property taxes, it's low sales taxes, it's low, you know, corporate taxes, income taxes. I mean, all of those styles of taxes apply to different corporations differently. And so, you know, you have to say that at the end of the day, what is it that your corporation, and what are the CEOs and the board of directors of that corporation, and then all the people that work for that corporation looking for, right? And you're trying to find and strike that balance. And there's no one formula that wins, right? Otherwise, every company would end up in the same city. You know, they end up in different places for different reasons. And our job is to help decipher what those reasons are, as well as convince that company that the reasons that we have are the best that they need, right? And so that's why they want to come here. So you will see that overall, when you compare our tax structure to something like Texas, right? Texas has a very competitive tax structure as well. In fact, they have no personal income tax. And that's a big proponent for a lot of folks. But guess what? They have higher taxes in the corporations in other places. Oh, wait a second, time out, put on the brakes. Now the corporation's going, that's great. You know, my CEO's making $1 million. They're going to love the fact they don't pay personal income taxes, but the corporation's getting taxed a lot higher. So now the CEO's job to the stakeholder or to the stockholder are very different. That's when their job is going to be harder. So maybe that's not the ideal place to go after all. That's where Arizona comes in. Arizona is so competitive amongst all of those different things that when you put the package together and compare apples to apples, that's where we excel.
Two questions. The first question is, what do you think the biggest challenge is for the city of Maricopa moving forward? What they're going to have to, you know, what's Maricopa got to do to keep this momentum going?
So I think the momentum to keep going is growing. You know, that's what it is. And some of it is the free market, right? If you're in a recession, Maricopa is going to feel recession just like every place else. But as we continue to work on roadways, as we continue to work on the floodplain mitigation, as we continue to get out there and get our name known and not be in a fishbowl, right, and wait for people to come to us, but we're going to them and we're saying, we have something pretty darn special here, come take a look at it and tell us what you think. That's where we win, almost hands down every time. I can give you an absolute example of that. I was recently asked to go we were narrowed down to a top 10 of different cities that a manufacturing company, a food manufacturing company, is looking at locating here in the Phoenix metro area. And so because of our membership in GPEG and because we had replied to the proposal, we were selected as one of the top 10 cities to interview with. Well, that's pretty good, because now we're down to the top 10, right? And so they asked us to come and give a presentation, no more than 30 minutes, and just very much few question and answer, tell us a little bit about it, and really it's about 15 minutes tops, okay? And they're gonna cycle through 10 cities, and they're gonna sit there and they're gonna stare at you, and they're not gonna say much, and you might get one or two things from the site selector, but that's it. And they're trying to put everybody on a level playing field so that they can be, sell me what you got, sell me your best. And it was funny because it was a Monday morning, and you kind of have that weekend, and it's early on a Monday morning, and I'm thinking, boy, I walk in there and there's all these teams of people with the other cities, and our team was all over the country doing what we do best, right? Which is out there talking to people and trying to get people here. So they asked me to go because all of our economic development staff were gone. And they said, Mayor, would you go and do this? Sure, no problem, So I go in there and I sit down with them, and now mind you, I've done this a million times, but I haven't done it specifically with the site selector. And so as I'm sitting there talking to him, and talking to this group, at the end, what I came to find out is that they were very excited about the things that I had said. They were very excited about the position that Maricopa has taken to make these types of companies a building priority in our city, okay? Speed to market is everything for a corporation, okay? And so having a development services that's going to work closely with economic development hand in hand to get that business permitted and through the process as quickly as possible, they love that. Okay, and that's one of the things that is standing out from Maricopa's perspective. So what they said is after the fact, they came out and visited the next day with nobody else, and none of them, myself or staff or anybody, and they just wandered around Maricopa, and they went back and they told GPEC, holy crap, we love Maricopa. Now, does that mean we've won the project yet? No, but it says we love it, we love the people, we love the atmosphere, we love the feeling of the city, and the mayor had so much energy. and I was like, well, that's good, because it was a Monday morning and I didn't feel like I had a lot of energy. But it was the fact that we said the right things and we can back it up with who we are, and when they see it, it clicks. And that's why it's so powerful to not only sell who we are and have that relationship and get them to trust you, but you have to bring them here so they can see for themselves. And that's what sells them.
Any advice for whoever has to follow you?
Yeah, just do your best. Look, at the end of the day, if I may, point of personal privilege here, this has been the ultimate honor of my life. I can't even tell you that this. And maybe it's just because of my personality type and who I am as a person. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. I love being in front of people, but I love teaching. And I want people to understand that what I do is on their behalf, and I don't make decisions in a vacuum, and I listen to them, right? And we can't agree with everybody, and we still have to make decisions that sometimes are going to make half of the people mad and the other half of the people happy. But we do our best as a collective whole. And I think that where I have excelled at has been in that networking capacity, in learning and conveying and teaching, and doing my best to keep my council together, because every one of them is important to me. Even if I disagree with them, their thoughts and what they bring to the table as an elected official is important. And I want to hear from them, and I want to learn from them, and I want to make decisions. But at the end of the day, I have to remember that we're all replaceable too, and just like I said earlier, I got to stand on the shoulders of somebody else who prepped things for me and for my success, and I'm getting to do the same thing for someone else after me, who will take it. And I'm not saying it'll be in a different direction. It will be in the unique direction of that individual, right? It won't be the same. It won't be me. It'll be them. And that's okay, because that's what the city needs at this time, is it needs them. And that's hard to do when you voluntarily say, I'm gonna go and do something else. But again, that something else is exactly what I'm doing now. It's just power leveling up Maricopa. And that's really what I'm excited about, is I want to take us to that next level. And I'm not sure that I can do it as mayor any longer, right? Meaning that it's not that I've reached a pinnacle, there's always more to do, but it's somebody else's turn to take those reins and my turn to take the reins over here, so that together we're more powerful, not less.
What do you think your biggest challenge is in your new position?
I think the new position challenge is that, really this is a brand new MEDA, okay? Even though it's been around for about 16, 17 years, this is a brand new organization. And in part it's because of because of the deliverables, the things that we're in charge of. And this is the first time that MEDA has had its full own staff, if you will, right? That in the past we've had consultants and other people, and they've all worked really well for us. But this is truly bringing it into line with other EDAs out there, and I think that's what's going to be the most challenging: is how do we do that like others do it on a skeleton staff, but at the same time, how do we do it better? How do we do it uniquely Maricopa's way?
How many people work for MEDA?
So it's about 3 to 5, yeah. So it's not a ton of people, right? But we have a big job, and it's going to keep us really hopping.
So that independence, where it's they have their own staffing now. How long has that been in place?
So it's been in place really just as of right now. So it's going into place right now in July 1. So that's why I say this is a brand new MEDA. There's a whole bunch of things that we'll be doing differently, and again, we're trying to power up or up level the way the organization works so that it works at I like to equate it being tied at the hip with the city, right? The city's going to do its thing in its lane, and MEDA's going to do its thing in its lane. But when you compare them, they're right abutted to each other. I'm a financial advisor by trade. I work with accountants all day long. Okay, I know enough about accounting to be dangerous, and my accountants that I work with know enough about financial planning to be dangerous, right? But we don't cross lanes. We work together hand in hand for the benefit of the consumer, right? Or our client. That's how we work together. And so this is the exact same thing as going from a mayor to the president and CEO of this organization. It's I know the lane that the city stays in. I know the lane that MEDA stays in, and having now served in both roles, I'll be able to execute those hopefully flawlessly. MEDA's funding mechanism comes from a variety of places. It comes from the private sector that are the board members. It also has a contract with the city to do economic development for them, and that was something that the city subbed out years ago. And that actually saves the taxpayer a great deal of money. When you have staffers internally trying to do economic development, there's real benefits to it, but there's also real downside. And that is especially when you're talking about all the extra things that go into having a city staffer there, right? We have laws that we have to live by, very strict HR rules. And so because of that, we have to provide those benefits. And so we might pay them a little bit less than what the marketplace as a whole would pay them, but with our benefits, we end up paying them a little bit more. And so it ends up being a very expensive thing. And so what we did is we actually closed up our economic development part internally in the city and went to an outside organization such as MEDA and said, let's do a contract with you. And if we do that contract, we'll save the taxpayers money. And that was a big deal. That's a big deal.
So contract, private sector, I guess members of companies in the city are already members.
Correct.
Is it, I don't want to say kind of a chamber of commerce kind of thing, but.
So it has a board of directors,
right.
Just like a chamber of commerce would. But the difference is that yes, these are the key industry players, right? So again, when you think of a Greater Phoenix Economic Council, a much larger, more established EDA that's been around for 30 years, the person that started that group is the one who helped us start MEDA. So it's really kind of cool because the first president and CEO of that location was actually the one who was our consultant to help start this. And so, here we are on 18 years, morphing and learning as we grew as a city what we could afford and what we couldn't, and then eventually, changing into this where we subbed this out to them, and so it's been an evolution. And so really, I call this like MEDA 3.0, really, which is this is the new MEDA, right? This is something totally different and really on par with what it should be. But again, when I look at the membership of a GPEC, Greater Phoenix Economic Council, I see them as you have mayors from different cities, you have the counties, and then you also have primarily things like Knight Trucking or Caterpillar or Intel or the U of A and ASU and these universities, all these different industries, Banner Health, et cetera. Those are all the ones that help support MEDA. A GPEC. Similarly, here you would have folks like, our utility companies, right? Mm-hmm. Because when we're trying to attract a company to come here, we need and want the individuals sitting on this board because they have a vested interest in making sure that company comes out of the ground. okay? And when that company comes out of the ground, it's that rising tide raising all ships. Because guess what? If we have a new company that uses electricity, ED3 gets to sell them electricity, right? Global Water gets to sell them water. And guess what? They provide 300 jobs to the Maricopa area that are going to be filled by those that are qualified for it. And so again, that's 300 people that are no longer on the 347, yet are spending money here, shopping local, and now having more time in their life because they're not having to commute, right?
It sounds like this is more of a industrial. I don't like you to use the word industrial because it doesn't really apply anymore. But bigger manufacturing, bigger companies.
Yes.
This is more corporate instead of retail.
Yes, you're 100% correct. This is industry and commercial, and retail stays really with the city. That's the city's purview, is retail, because, and the reason being is that, you know, they do very well at networking the different developers that all have connections with retail. And so, for example, I was at lunch yesterday with Thompson Thrift, who developed the Sprouts area, and their connections as land developers are all about, hey, we have this land, we're going to prep it, we're going to bring in the utilities, you're going to bring the utilities to it, and then from there, we're going to, you know, connect it with Ross or Marshall's or Sprouts or whomever, right, or Red Lobster. That's what they do. And so the city's good at helping that hand in hand. Where MEDA comes in is we're looking for the Intels, we're looking for the Honeywells, we're looking for the biotech companies, right? We are looking for those big industries, high-paying tech jobs, established, looking to move their headquarters, looking to expand their operations. So a lot of times, we're looking for foreign direct investment. So whether it's from Canada, and Canada is the #1 country in the world who believes in actually uprooting Canadian companies and moving them to the United States. And they are the #1 country in the entire world that does it. The #1 foreign direct investment is Canada, and especially in Arizona. So that means they're more willing to bring their dollars, their money, and invest here. It also means their people come here, right? That's tourism. That's money that they're coming across and spending here that they wouldn't have else, or they would have spent elsewhere. And we want them to spend it here. I want them to spend it right here in Maricopa, because when they're spending it here, Maricopa as a whole is growing. The small business is growing. The medium-sized business is growing. And now that beacon of kind of that, I think of it as a pulsating beacon, right? And it sits out there and it tells the rest of the world, hey, we're here in Maricopa. You should come find out what we got going on here. And then the next company comes and the next company comes. That's how you do it.
It sounds like you've got the structure in place to do it now, but it sounds like your job is going to be to build this thing.
Yes.
To build an infrastructure of inside the organization,
Yes.
and to go out there and to find new companies to come in and to become, I guess, charter members to some degree.
Yeah, sure. I mean, my job is not to get them as a member per se. My job is to get them to, put a $100 million investment in the ground in Maricopa and supply, 400 people jobs, right, at $89,000 a year. But of course, if there's a value in them joining me, sure, we'll talk to them about it. They'll know who we are. But again, that's not our purview. Our purview isn't to get more membership. Our purview is to get more jobs here in Maricopa. Period. Mm-hmm. Cool. But you're 100% correct on building the structure, building the pipeline, and having this organization work to its peak maximum of making sure that what we're trying to accomplish is serving Maricopa. That's right.
Was there could you have imagined taking this position had you not known that you were going to be able to have the employees and the support structure?
I didn't imagine having this job ever. So, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I just never envisioned this. I always knew that there would be a jumping off point, and I always laugh when people always said, "Oh, you're just a stair climber, a political climber, and you're gonna go to this and that." And I laugh because I'm like, well, no, I'm here. I'm doing a job here, and I'm not focused on anything else. And when the day comes where something intersects with my path that is really the best next step for me and my family, then we'll take it right now. But my whole premise has been, how do I take and make Maricopa better? And I get to feel, at least I feel right now in this intersection, that I get to do the exact same thing. I just don't carry the title of mayor anymore. And I'm okay with that, right? I think every elected official is okay when they get to go back to the seat in the audience, you know. But you know, I will always. But I'm not going anywhere, right? So people can still ask me questions, and I'll still be knowledgeable to things as much as I possibly can be, because I need to know this so that I can teach the companies these things, right? I want the companies to know. So the same thing I'm going to talk to the people about, even though I'm not doing it as mayor. I'm doing it in the same auspice of how do I sell Maricopa. For me, the only thing I'd want to talk more that we haven't discussed is that I just want to convey to people that I'm not going anywhere, right? I'm still here. I'm still, I'm taking this knowledge that I've garnered on the job for Maricopa, and I'm literally taking a step to the side. And that side means that I'm going to work hand in hand with the city every single day. And you have an amazing council, and you'll have a great mayor, whoever that person ends up being. And the future is exciting, and it's bright, and the sky's the limit. And that's what's so exciting, because when I became mayor, everybody wanted to leave the city that I knew. Everybody. They wanted to get out. They thought it was the middle of the recession. They were angry. They had been promised something. And I tried to come in with a little bit of optimism and a little bit of belief that, hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to grow through this, and we're going to find a way to make it happen. So if I may, you know, kind of a continuation there is that standing on the side now is taking all of that knowledge, and I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. I'm taking it, and I'm up-leveling Maricopa into the next iteration, right? The next level of growth, the next level of success. And I'm going to get to do it with all of my knowledge, and now all of the collective knowledge and increase that comes from a city council operating on all of its cylinders with Rick Horst and the city staff. And together we are working in a formation, like forming the tip of the spear that has never really been before.
The process, who hired you? I know they hired you. But
yes.
Who exactly, how did it go about?
So the hiring process is the board of directors. Again, all these members of the board, they have the authority to pick and select who their staff is going to be. And so together, they got together and decided, you know, to look for folks that would meet the criteria. And my name got brought up, and so they basically came to me. There's an executive team. You know, all boards of directors that are larger than 5 or 6, you usually have an executive team, right? And that executive team makes decisions on behalf of the board until they can vote. Okay, and so what transpires is the executive team was charged with reaching out to me and to saying, hey, what would you think about this? And I said, look, I need some time to think about it. I need some time to work through this, because there's a whole lot of emotions that run through your head when you've enjoyed something so much. And the last thing I want to do is feel like I'm abandoning my post, right? I certainly don't want to do that, and I want the people to think that. But what I want them to know, again, is that on the contrary, what I have discovered as I have really looked at this deeply is I'm helping even more, because I get to hyper focus on this job of bringing industry here. And so that was very exciting to me. And so they went back and had an executive session and gave direction and formulated a contract and said, here you go.
How big of a board are we talking about? 10 people? 12 people?
It's about 20 people. Mm-hmm.
About 20 people?
Yeah.
And the executive committee is what, about 5?
About 4. Mm-hmm.
About 4?
Yep. 4 or 5, yeah.
Do you answer to anybody other than the board?
Nope. The board is my boss. Now, you have members of the city that are of that board, right? Rick Horst sits on that board. So, because we have an economic development contract with the city, so I answer to the city as well, right? Or I will when I'm hired in the position. So, as of July 1.
So, what are some of the deliverables? I may be asking something too far, but what are some of the deliverables?
Yeah, so deliverables are things like, we need to make sure that we're, submitting so many proposals, because, we get leads all the time, and there are certain leads that we just don't qualify for. So let me give you an example. Company, they call them, they never give you the name, they don't give you any information whatsoever, and all of a sudden, to this group will come Project X. That's what it's called, Project X. And Project X is looking for $100 million CapEx, right? That's your capital investment. They want to put it someplace. They're looking for an existing space of, let's say, 30 acres. Okay, check, we got 30 acres, right? All right, and of the 30 acres, they need to have a certain amount of people within a population radius. Okay, check, we meet that one. And then they have to have light rail nearby. Oh, okay, well, we don't have light rail, right? So that's a proposal that we may not be able to submit to because they said that's one of the key things. Now, we have a decision to make here because I could choose to take our staff time and submit it, and maybe they'd forego the light rail. So it depends on what they've asked for that we have to sort through to decide whether or not it's worth our staff's time to answer that proposal or not. Because remember, we want to focus at where we're going to get results, not just, shoot like a shotgun and answer everything and do it all halfway and then try and convince people. They're like, why did you submit this to me? You don't have half the things I asked for, right? If there's only one thing on there that we don't have that they asked for, maybe that's a worthwhile proposal to submit. So what I'm doing now is I'm giving back to the City Council and to the City of Maricopa citizens a set of deliverables that said, we have met these things that you've asked us to accomplish in the contract. We've met with so many site structures. We've brought so many people here. We have answered so many proposals. And we are trying to do our best to get so many things out of the ground. So maybe our first year is to have 10 new locates, right? Meaning that they have actually said and committed and are going to try and move towards cutting the ribbon by purchasing land, 10 new locates in the course of the year. So we have all these goals. These are the deliverables, but they're goals because this is economic development, folks. And economic development, it could take 1 month, it could take 100 months, it could take 10 years before somebody decides that they're ready to make a move. What our job is to continue to fill the pipeline and work closely with the city so that they can close their end of the deal and we keep bringing new people for them to talk with. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah,
And so that's what we're trying to accomplish. So we're trying to fill those, and that is a deliverable that we can answer in the form of stats or data in what we're doing. Because at the end of the day, it's like marketing, right? What do we know about Nike and marketing? You might have a shoe that is brand new and you think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but the average person has to see that shoe in some version, either on somebody's foot, in a magazine article, in a TV commercial, 7 to 10 times before they ever pay attention. Oh my gosh, that's a great shoe. I need to go out and buy it, right? And so it's the same principle. We need to go out and get these people here and understand who Maricopa is so that they can, in the future, even if they choose not to locate here, they're going to talk to others. They're all friends with other CEOs, right? And they talk and they say, we had this great opportunity to go to a little city called Maricopa, and it didn't work out for us, but you're talking about moving your company, you ought to look at Maricopa. Well, guess what? Because we answered that proposal to that one gentleman, he's now having lunch with his CEO buddy, and he says that we just got the power of referral, right? The word of mouth, which is the most powerful way of selling. And so we now get that touch that we couldn't have gotten if we hadn't gone out there and sought after the attraction of that group.
So we've talked about the emotions of it.
Yep.
Well, how long does it take you to work through that?
I don't know the answer to that. I think I'm still in the middle of it. But I told you this works about a month, so I've been working on it for the last month, and every step of the way, as many hardships as there have been, there's been a lot of answers that this is the right way to go. And this is a way in which I can take my personality, my knowledge, my talents, and I can just do the next best thing for Maricopa that, again, in an elected position, you're elected for a period of time, right? I mean, it's the same in a job. You're hired for a period of time. You don't know how long you're going to be there till you get fired or you quit or another job opportunity comes along. You don't know. But you go in committing, saying, I want to be here for a while. And that's what I certainly did as mayor. If the people would have me, if they would elect me, then, without the start and stop time, because there's a term limit, right? It says you started here at this time and it ends in 4 years, unless you run again and get reelected, right? So that's a definitive. And here I have an open-ended definitive, but I got to perform. I have to get things done. I have to make things happen. I have to hit these deliverables. I have to keep setting these goals, and some goals are going to have to go down because they're too high, and some are going to have to come up because they're too low. And we're going to have to keep pushing ourselves and keep stretching. And we too will grow as an organization, but we also want to grow our board a little bit. We want to see that more private sector contribution money comes in and public sector money goes down. And that's how GPEC did it, but it's taken them 30 years to do it. So we're going to be in the same boat, but if the outcome is still the companies are locating here, then we're attaining what we set out to do.
Third term?
In my fourth term.
How long does a term go?
So my first 2 terms were 2 years, because that's the way it was written at the time. And then we put it on the ballot to change that, and so that was done in my first term, and I had to run again for a 2-year term because it didn't go into effect until the next time I ran. So then it became a 4-year term and a 4-year term. So it's 4 years in perpetuity now, right? That's the new code. But in this particular case, with me stepping aside.
Fourth term.
So on my 4th term, yeah.
Wow.
And I've been incredibly lucky. I mean, from the standpoint that my first election was a very hard fought. It was an unknown quantity. But I've done my best to surprise the people. I try and meet them where they're at. I do a lot of time on Facebook. I spend a lot of time answering questions and being accessible. And I always joked that when my wife sent me to the grocery store to get 3 things, I'd come back 3.5 hours later because everybody in every aisle had a question for me. And I love answering questions. I love people knowing. I put myself in their position, right? If that's my one opportunity to talk to the mayor and I got it, I'm going to take it, right? And so if I'm the mayor, then I should probably be respectful of that individual and give them the time and answer their question, right? Because that's their opportunity. And so I've always tried to do that. And I think that the people have responded, because I hear all the time, show me another city where the mayor is so responsive, where the mayor comes on and answers direct questions. He doesn't have a staff person doing it. It's not some other person that canned. I mean, people said for years I should can my responses and just can't. I never did that. For me, I always answered them because the questions were unique. They were all somewhat different. And so every answer needed to be customized. But it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of patience. But I'll tell you, dealing with people and the people of this city are its #1 asset.